Every night, long after the Tsukiji market closes its iron gates, the real business of the global sushi empire begins. Deep beneath freezing facilities outside Tokyo, hundreds of bluefin tuna, some weighing more than a man, lie in perfect rows each, tagged, scanned, and sealed. They were caught just hours ago in the icy Pacific, stunned at sea, flash frozen to -60°C while still retaining their structure, color, and cellular integrity. At this temperature, they are not just frozen, they are suspended, untouchable by time, decay, or the slightest hint of thaw. Each of these fish represents thousands of dollars, a culinary weapon in the hands of a Michelin-starred chef in Milan, Rome, or Florence. But before they land on a hand-polished counter, as otoro or sashimi, they must survive a brutal journey of 9,600 kilometers without thawing by even 1 degree. Not 0°C, not -10°C, not even -50°C. They must stay at -60°C through air pressure changes, customs delays, and temperature differentials spanning 100 degrees between origin and destination. It begins with logistics that look more like military doctrine than food transport. Cranes lower the tuna into reinforced containers, each lined with carbon fiber insulation and layered with sheets of dry ice. On the outer shell, sensors blink measuring internal temperatures every 30 seconds, ready to transmit data instantly if something goes wrong. Each crate is barcoded, GPS tracked, and registered into a chain of custody system that treats fish like diamonds. From the outskirts of Tokyo, the crates are rushed before sunrise to Narita Airport, not in regular delivery trucks, but in cryo-equipped vehicles built to withstand tropical heat or Arctic storms. Drivers wear thermal suits. The cabin is isolated. There is no room for error. Even the time the truck doors are opened on the tarmac is timed no more than 90 seconds. Or the air exchange might start affecting internal humidity. Every detail is optimized to buy time. Inside the cargo plane, the core temperature of the hold is preset to -70°C colder than most Arctic winter nights. There's no standard refrigeration here. This is a deep freeze chamber engineered by aerospace technicians, not food handlers. Vents circulate nitrogen to displace any ambient moisture. And in the cockpit, a technician monitors temperature telemetry on a dedicated screen, separate from flight controls. The system will sound an alarm if even one container reads above -58°C. The flight crosses 9 time zones. Outside the aircraft, the sun scorches over deserts, and sub-zero air rips across the fuselage at 900 km/h. Inside, the tuna sleep in suspended animation, chemically unchanged from the moment they left the ocean. Every hour, data pings are sent to control centers in both Tokyo and Milan. Every shift in vibration, every spike in altitude, every delay on the tarmac is logged and analyzed. As the aircraft descends toward Italy, the game becomes even more delicate. On European soil, customs procedures can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 6 hours, but this operation doesn't allow for waiting. A cold chain clearance unit awaits with sealed transport, bonded documents, and security codes. There's no room for negotiation. The crates are rerouted through a fast lane. Few ever see a corridor where food meets finance at maximum velocity. From Milan's Malpensa airport, the containers are once again placed into nitrogen-cooled trucks, specially licensed, satellite-tracked, and escorted when needed. Their destination, a network of high-end distributors who supply Europe's most elite sushi counters. Before a single crate is opened, temperature logs are reviewed. If any crate registered a single deviation, say, -59°C instead of -60°C, to reject it outright. Not for safety, but for perfection. And the reason is simple. When a sushi chef in northern Italy slices into that tuna belly, it must bleed like it was caught that morning. The color must remain ruby, the texture smooth, the fat marbling intact. Any variation, and the knife tells the truth. That is why the cold must never break. Not on the sea, not in the air, not for a heartbeat. This is not just frozen fish. This is preservation under fire, a war against time, temperature, and error. And every player in the chain, from the fisherman with frostbitten fingers to the technician staring at thermal charts at 4 a.m., knows that one mistake can turn a $10,000 tuna into worthless flesh. Every tuna that reaches European soil carries with it not just monetary value, but the weight of a national identity. Japan doesn't export fish, it exports perfection. And this frozen bluefin, preserved to atomic precision, is a symbol of that perfection. In Italy, it doesn't simply arrive, it's received. Unloading teams wear gloves, not just for hygiene but for reverence. Opening the crate is a ritual. The release of nitrogen vapor as the lid lifts creates a moment of silent awe, like unveiling a sculpture or relic. A single crate might be destined for 5 restaurants, each with their own clientele of billionaires, celebrities, or culinary purists who expect nothing short of a spiritual experience on their plate. Before it is carved, the tuna is examined, not by machines, but by experts trained for years to recognize microscopic imperfections, crystal patterns on the muscle surface, slight dehydration marks, discoloration around the gills. At -60°C, None of these should exist. The fish must look as though it was caught 5 minutes ago. If the surface passes, the core is tested. A thin blade slides in near the dorsal fin and extracts a sample no bigger than a toothpick. That sliver is analyzed for color gradient, fat distribution, and water content. Only then is the fish approved for slicing, and even then, it's not allowed to thaw naturally. It's moved into hypercooled prep rooms where the air is kept at -15 °C to allow a gradual and controlled texture softening over 12 to 18 hours. Once it's ready, chefs approach the tuna not with speed, but with ceremony. The first cut is silent. Knives are pre-cooled in dry ice. There is no talking in the room. The belly is the first section to be separated otoro, the most prized, rich in marbled fat, buttery in flavor. This portion alone, just a few kilograms, can sell for over 3,000 euros in high-end dining rooms. The rest is divided according to texture, grain, and intended preparation. Some for sashimi, others for nigiri, and some for advanced fermentation techniques that only a handful of chefs in the world can execute without waste. What most people don't realize is that even once sliced, the tuna is still on the clock. From the moment it's removed from its cryogenic state, a new timeline begins. The countdown isn't days, it's hours. The flesh begins absorbing ambient air, the fat begins reacting to oxygen, and the perfect texture begins to degrade. For this reason, reservations in certain sushi houses are booked down to the minute. A client might be served a cut of tuna that was defrosted just 47 minutes earlier, not 46 or 48, to ensure it reaches the mouth at optimal structure and temperature. Meanwhile, the logistics team behind the scenes is already preparing for the next shipment, while chefs and guests enjoy the ritual. A separate team monitors the return cycle, crates are sterilized, data logs are extracted, dry ice residues are measured for thermal efficiency. Every tiny variable is logged into a database that crosses borders, languages, and agencies. If a temperature sensor showed even a minor fluctuation during turbulence or a brief mechanical fault on the tarmac, that crate's history is flagged. It might not be rejected outright, but its content will be downgraded, perhaps no longer worthy of otoro service, but suitable for grilling or lower-tier preparations. It's a harsh system. Ruthless, some would say. But in the cold chain world, second chances don't exist. This level of scrutiny has created a silent standard among elite suppliers. Either you deliver flawless product or you're out, and that pressure cascades backward through the chain, pressuring airlines to upgrade refrigeration hardware, incentivizing dock workers to move faster in the dead of night, forcing vessel captains to choose riskier routes to shorten delivery time from sea to port. And behind it all, there's a number constantly glowing on every terminal, every dashboard, every hand scanner. -60, it's more than a number, it's law. Break it, and the chain shatters. Obey it, and the system thrives. In Milan alone, more than 2,000 high-grade bluefin arrive each month. That's nearly 500 tons of fish, all frozen beyond what most kitchen freezers can even reach. And each piece is monitored, graded, and documented as if it were a precious gem, because in a way, it is. A perfectly preserved tuna isn't just food, it's a miracle of physics, planning, and timing. And at 500 euros per kilogram, there's no room for romanticism, only precision. Before any fish reaches this level of scrutiny, its journey begins in places where the rules are very different on the open sea. Aboard vessels that operate like mobile factories, harvesting giants from the ocean with clockwork precision. Japanese tuna boats often spend weeks at sea, outfitted with flash freezing chambers that reach -60 °C within seconds of capture. Once a tuna is pulled from the water, it's never simply thrown on ice. It's stunned, bled, gutted, and then flash frozen using a technique developed over decades to preserve every fiber of its texture. Each second matters. The longer a tuna remains above freezing, the more its enzymes activate, and the quality begins to decline. What happens at sea determines everything that follows. These ships are equipped with cryogenic freezers lined with titanium panels. The fish are laid out like missiles, nose to tail, in narrow aisles where high-speed fans and vacuum pressure systems lock in the temperature. Each fish is weighed, tagged with a unique ID, and logged into an onboard manifest that will eventually sync with customs, buyers, and importers across the globe. From the moment it's frozen, that fish enters a timeline that can't be broken. Not during offloading, not during transport, not during inspection. Every second of warmth, even by a single degree, shortens its shelf life and slashes its market value. The economics are ruthless. A single mistake by a deckhand, like leaving a freezer door slightly ajar, can result in an entire cargo being downgraded. That means a loss of hundreds of thousands of dollars for the shipping company and potential bans from elite buyers. That's why every crew member on board these vessels is trained not just in fishing, but in food preservation, safety protocols, and temperature auditing. The sea doesn't forgive errors, neither do the buyers. Once docked, the tuna are transferred directly into insulated reefers, massive refrigerated containers that resemble armored vaults. There is no pause, no breathing window. The transition from ship to land must be as seamless as the freezing process itself. Cranes lift the frozen cargo straight into nitrogen-cooled storage units, where the cold chain begins its next chapter. Each container is pre-chilled for 48 hours before receiving a single fish. There are no shortcuts. If a container reads -58°C, instead of -60°C, it's emptied, recalibrated, and recooled. Perfection isn't optional, it's enforced. From these ports, shipments are routed through Japan's heavily automated export terminals. Robots guide the crates onto loading arms. Drones scan barcodes from multiple angles, and customs officers check digital temperature logs, not just paperwork. The entire process is paperless, data-driven, and optimized for one thing only: speed, without compromise. In the logistics world, this is called cold velocity, the ability to move perishable cargo at maximum speed without losing thermal stability. Very few countries can do it. Japan is one of them. At Narita Hanada or Kansai International Airport, special cargo bays are kept at sub-zero temperatures just for fish exports. Commercial goods wait in queues. Tuna doesn't. It is given priority clearance, escorted by dedicated cold chain supervisors, and processed in under 20 minutes from entry to airborne loadout. Even the planes used for these shipments are specialized. These aren't regular commercial freighters. They are equipped with tri-zone refrigeration bays, dry ice injection systems, and mid-flight nitrogen discharge. Every hour in the air is another opportunity for failure. So they've removed the human variable from most of the process, automating temperature tracking, AI predicted route optimization, and even in-flight diagnostics. But what happens if something goes wrong mid-flight? What if a sensor fails, or a refrigeration system hiccups? That's where redundancy kicks in. Every shipment includes backup cooling, secondary dry ice packs, compartmentalized airflow channels, and triple insulated crates. Some containers are built to survive up to 6 hours of full system failure without any internal temperature fluctuation. That's the margin they work with, a 6-hour buffer to fix a failure in a 12-hour flight. It sounds tight, because it is, but for an industry where the loss of a few degrees can translate to a loss of millions, those 6 hours mean survival or collapse. By the time the crates descend over Europe, the temperature logs already tell the story. If a crate stayed stable, it clears instantly. If not, it might be redirected, downgraded, or even destroyed. There's no second opinion. Temperature is truth. And for buyers in Italy, France, or Switzerland, that truth is everything. Because they're not just buying fish, they're buying certainty. Certainty that what arrives in their kitchen is as close as modern technology can get to stopping time. In the final stage of the journey, something remarkable happens. After surviving one of the most complex cold chain logistics operations on Earth, after traveling over 9,000 kilometers across oceans and continents without warming a single degree, the tuna is finally brought into the hands of chefs who understand the true cost of perfection, not just in euros or yen but in human effort, mechanical precision, and an unbreakable chain of trust between fishermen, pilots, technicians, and artisans. In these kitchens, the story of the fish isn't lost, it's honored. Every cut is done with reverence. Every slice is presented like a final act in a performance that began on a distant deck in the Pacific. And yet, what diners see is only the final 5 seconds of a story that spans weeks, dozens of hands, and hundreds of checkpoints. Most won't think about the nitrogen-cooled trucks, or the technician monitoring live thermal data mid-flight. They'll just taste richness, smoothness, depth, but those 5 seconds of flavor were engineered across the planet, in frozen silence, by a network of people whose names will never appear on a menu. That's what makes this different from any other kind of transport. It's not about volume, it's not about speed. It's about precision and sacrifice. In the name of something most people take for granted, freshness. Some of these tuna were sold before they even left the ocean, pre-bought by brokers for private clients, exclusive restaurants, or culinary institutions that demand exclusivity. They're not just paying for the fish, they're paying for the certainty that what arrives will be the same every time. No variation, no excuse. That level of reliability doesn't come cheap, but neither does breaking the chain. A single temperature violation can void insurance, void contracts, and destroy relationships. That's the pressure everyone in this chain lives under. It's not glamorous, it's not dramatic, but it's exact. And that's what the cold chain demands. Exactness without exception. This is why the system works. Not because the machines are perfect, but because the people operating them have built a culture where good enough isn't allowed. From the moment the fish is caught, every player in the chain operates as if failure isn't an option. That mindset doesn't just protect the tuna, it defines the reputation of everyone involved. Airlines who transport this cargo don't list it in brochures. Refrigerated truck drivers don't post selfies with crates worth more than a luxury car. And technicians working night shifts in freezing warehouses don't tell stories, but they are the invisible force behind the world's finest meals. In a world that moves fast, where speed is often the measure of success, this process is a reminder that some things can't be rushed, that sometimes Mastery lies not in how quickly you deliver something, but in how well you preserve it along the way. Because when it comes to bluefin tuna, there is no second try. The chain must hold, and when it does, what arrives on a plate isn't just food. It's a global effort distilled into a single bite. If you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of person this channel is built for. Here at Massive Transport, we go far beyond the surface to show you what really moves. The world, the people, the machines, the systems that operate in silence but make everything possible. So if you want more stories like this of frozen battlegrounds, billion-dollar supply chains, and engineering on the edge, hit that subscribe button. No gimmicks, no fluff. Just real operations, real logistics, and real respect for the invisible forces behind everything we eat.